We are really fortunate this evening to have a live caller. This is fun. I think this is the second or third time. Third time. Saving the best for third. We have Dale on the line. You there, buddy?
I am.
We're lucky to have you.
It's my pleasure, Greg.
Pretty fun. So I'm just going to kind of wing this with you. We'll see where it goes, you know. Or we could always ask Jacqueline how it should go. That was a joke.
I know. I get
it. and the rest of the audience will.
Might not, but I do.
The audience will get it better in a minute here. So describe what, I don't know, 3 years ago or whatever it was. What was it like being married to Jacqueline for you?
Well, you know, I was a little bit more stupider then, Greg.
And who would have thought that was possible, right?
You're being kind.
I know.
So, you know, I've been a 5-time loser when it comes to relationships. I've been married 5 times, and so prior to our intervention with you in Rome, Jacqueline, we had an interaction, and she was saying the exact same words that my other wife had said to me. And I said, oh, well, this is not good. So, you know, and then by chance, we got a hold of real love, and then it just changed my relationship just drastically, like 180 degrees.
What was she like? What was she like with you before?
You know, just telling me what to do, basically, most all the time. And
yeah.
Of course, I was a runner, so I would just sit over in the corner and just say, if she wasn't around telling me what to do, my life would be perfect.
Uh-huh. So she controlled and you ran.
Yes.
Which is understandable. And then you guys came here, and you'll probably never forget these words, when I said, well, you know, Dale, you can do whatever the heck you want with your life. And you look stunned, like that wasn't a possibility that had ever occurred to you. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. In fact, I made sure Jacqueline was in the room.
Not only that, but I seem to recall you actually repeating it to her more than once.
Yeah, because I remember I said, well, I get to watch football all afternoon and scratch my favorite parts and do whatever I want.
Yep.
Jacqueline goes, oh, wait a minute. And you go, no, he gets to do that.
So you went from being very compliant and controlled to, you had a significant period where you were pretty much like a rebellious child.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and for those who are listening and don't know Dale well, he was controlled about how he did everything. Jacqueline would say, well, why don't you do this? Which really, from her mouth in those days, was not a question. And so she was controlling what he did constantly. Well, he just finally gave up. He got in the prison cell. She locked the door behind him, and he just stayed there and did whatever she told him to do. And so when I opened the prison doors and said, well, you can come out and play now, he just went nuts. He just did whatever he wanted to. You know, she'd have, and if I got the dates or events wrong, it doesn't really matter. But she'd have like Thanksgiving dinner ready. Everybody's sitting down at the table, you know, the dinner, she's prepared all day. And Dale decides, you know, I think I'll go to the mall. And so she calls in a rage because, you know, Dale is out 3 hours past the start of, you know, Thanksgiving dinner. And I said, okay. She said, well, what should we do about this? And I said, well, I, for one, don't need to do anything about it. And I would recommend you not do anything about it. He just had to feel free. So he went from complying to rebelling, and it turns out neither one worked, because when he was complying, he was miserable. When he was rebelling, he was, well, not happy, but at least delighted with himself. And
Yep.
she hated it, the rebelling. So what changed the most, do you think, Dale?
Over time, and I'll say particularly after this retreat that she went by herself, for the weekend, man, whatever you did there, it was such a big shift for her that it allowed me to, my fear level went way down. So it allowed me to express my truth to her now, which I was never able to do, Greg.
Yep.
I was in so much fear.
Well, you're both amazing. The only reason that anybody ever controls is that they're afraid. And so they're trying to control the people and things around them. They assume that if they control all potential dangers, they'll feel safe. They don't. They feel temporarily more powerful, and the people around them learn to hate them. But what happened was, while she was here, and she's been working on this for some time, it's not like a sudden leap.
Right.
She's been creeping toward this, but she finally had a moment of completely trusting. It was just a divine thing to see. No kidding. She just relaxed like a child. And so when she went home, she didn't need to control you anymore, because she felt valued for who she was. She completely trusted that she didn't have to control anything. And now, not controlling, you felt safe to just tell her how you really felt, which got to feel pretty darn good, huh?
Oh, I can't express to you, Greg, how it just keeps getting better because of the work she's done. And I think I've told you this before. If nothing else, Jacqueline is extremely persistent. And so, did she go through her own stuff? Yep, she did, as we all do. Me, I withdraw. Her, she's a dog with a bone.
Yep. The cool thing about her is that, and this is really very instructive, I think, for everybody, who she really is, who Jacqueline really is as a human being, is persistent. That's an innate quality she has.
Yep.
If you're afraid, you turn persistence into nagging, controlling, hounding people till they want to be dead or kill you, or both. When you're not afraid, you use persistence to continue on a path of growing until you finally get it. So persistence by itself isn't necessarily a good or a bad thing. It depends on whether you're afraid. It's kind of like having a man, for example, be physically strong. Is that good or bad? Well, depends. If he's afraid, he can kill people with a swat of his hand. If he's not afraid, he can actually build things much faster than anybody else can. So it is so fun to hear that her being who she really is has helped you feel free to be who you really are. What a scream.
Yeah, it's really been something we've both been looking for all our lives.
Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, and you get this now. We're coming back in August, both of us. So
I look forward to it, buddy.
I do as well, Greg.
I love you. Thanks, Dale.
All right, love you too, Greg. Bye.
This is such a great example of two people keeping at it. And see, here's a place where Jacqueline's persistence was really very beneficial. So she could simultaneously be incredibly nagging, controlling, and annoying. That's the part of persistence that comes out when she's afraid. And yet, even in the midst of that, she kept going. She kept going in trying to be truthful about herself. And she'd take a step forward each time, and then she'd go back to controlling, and she'd go, I don't like this. So until finally, she persisted to the point where she just let go It was like watching a child be born. Wow, so cool. We can all do this. Our innate qualities all have the potential of doing great good. But when we're afraid, wow, the damage that we can do with them. I used the example of her persistence, a man being strong, somebody being intelligent. Intelligence by itself, meaningless, worthless. People who are intelligent, in fact, can just absolutely screw their own brains up to the point where they can't move anywhere. What they attempt to do is fill their heart with their head. Impossible. So they screw themselves with their intelligence. But then, if you add real love to it, they can use their intelligence to become amazingly perceptive. They're perceptive about the feelings of other people. They can become unparalleled in their ability to be tender because they can see what other people are feeling. They can understand people better. They can often make progress faster. They can be great wise men and women. So our innate qualities, they're there. Often they're obscured by how we use them. So we don't see somebody as persistent. Dale was very kind to use that word. We see them as nagging and controlling. We don't see somebody as just really bright. We see them as over-intellectualizing. So with love, everything becomes better, who we really are. Here's an email from a member who says, forgive me, I've been married twice. My first wife, the first weekend we were married, asked me where I was going with my golf clubs. So keep in mind, this is the first week. I said, to play golf. She said, you have a family now and you need to stay here. So I did. But later, she realized that was wrong. Now, keep in mind, I'm speaking to the person who wrote the email, that I'm going to comment on what you're writing as you're writing it without reading further. Why? To show you that how much can be inferred, how much I can hear about you with just almost no information. We tend to demonstrate who we are constantly in the smallest of interactions, all of them, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate to you. It's not about a problem with her or playing golf, or with every word we demonstrate who we are. So, first, you don't even know how to function, just from what you've said so far. You didn't even know how to function in a family. Never even occurred to you to say, well, we just got married and this is the first weekend, which I assume would essentially be a honeymoon, and I'm going to go play golf by myself. Clueless. You were just clueless. And so clueless and even compliant that when she said, oh, well, now you have to stay home. And so you just did. Whether you stayed home or went and played golf is irrelevant. What matters is you had no idea how to function as a person in a relationship. You were so ignorant of how to just be in a relationship. You said that she realized it was wrong to tell you what to do, but you didn't say a word about what you learned. You described this with as much passion as you would describe filling up a tire with air. There's just no passion or feeling in this, which would have contributed to your not knowing how to be in a relationship. And already you just sound like you're befuddled by human interaction. It scares you to not understand people and to not know how to relate to them. So you continue. 10 years ago, she, it's not a coincidence that you said she, not my wife, she, kind of, the opposite of the he in your relationship, passed away and I remarried. Notice, you're not saying anything about your first marriage except that you had it, she died, and you remarried. Kind of like describing the Revolutionary War as shots fired, new country. There's no feeling here. Nothing about love, nothing about the relationship itself. And that's almost never an accident. It's just a demonstration of your lack of understanding of human beings, which would include yourself and others. You sound so alone. Keep in mind, there's no criticism in this at all. If you're this alone and this ignorant about human beings, it's because nobody taught you. There isn't a single thing you could tell me about your childhood that would surprise me. It would have to have been not just lacking in nurturing, but lacking in any connection at all. Nobody would have told you how to be. You continue. My second wife asked me the first weekend we were married, back to the first weekend again, what I was going to do this weekend. I said, "Don't you mean, what are we going to do?" Her question really bothered me, and I wondered why she married me if we were not going to do things together. Again, you are so confused and alone. So with the first wife, you thought, well, playing golf makes perfect sense. You didn't know anything different. The first wife said, no, we don't play golf. We stay home and we do things together all the time. So you just switched your brain from, okay, play golf, now don't play golf. It's almost like relationships are a formula or an equation to you. Somebody gave you a new formula or a new equation. You went, okay, got it. Relationship, not golf. I'm not making fun of you. Nobody ever taught you. They told you what to do later in your life, your two wives, but they didn't tell you how or why, or you didn't get the feeling of it. You wondered why she married you instead of like talking to her and figuring out a relationship together. No criticism, almost nobody does know how. You said she's very independent, you're talking about your present wife now, and likes to do things on her own. She volunteers at an animal sanctuary and says that this relieves her stress. So you didn't know anything about relationships, so what did you do? You married a woman who doesn't know anything about relationships either. How do I know that? If she wants to relieve stress, does she get loved by you? No. Does she associate with other human beings? No. She relieves her stress by associating with animals. I've heard this story 1,000 times, if once. Because people actually believe that animals love them. What a self-delusion. Animals do not sit around and unconditionally care about your happiness. They just like having you around if you feed them and pet them. And dogs, at least, seem to be genetically wired to enjoy human companionship. Cats are wired for really who knows what. I don't understand them. But animals are just easy, which is why so many people gravitate to them. They're easy to love. They're easy to be around. And that, compared to the pain of human interactions, feels like love. I get that. You continue. My wife, present wife, says I'm controlling and draining because I'm always wanting to talk with her about our marriage. She finds it draining, honey, because she doesn't know what to say to you. And you would keep asking her about the marriage because you're just confused. You don't know what to do. Your brain is still going, golf, not golf. Crap, what's my next move? And so you ask her questions, and she doesn't know how to answer them. If she knew what to do in a relationship, talking about your marriage would be fun for her. She'd love it. But it's not. So what does she do? She goes and spends time with dogs and cats. So the two of you are just kind of lost together. It's not just you. It's also her. You continue. She also says, I do not show her respect and treat her like an adult. I have to admit she's right. I'm retired military and I can be directive in nature. I like that phrase. So when you're absolutely lost in relationships, when you're confused, what is one way to deal with confusion or pain? Control things. Just like we were talking about moments ago with Jacqueline, which you describe as being directive in nature. That would serve you well in the military, both in a place where you can both direct others and where you can be directed, like your first wife did. So that makes you feel safe, but it's just a brief illusion, and you're coming to recognize that, and you're not happy. She doesn't know how to be in a marriage either, but she does know that she doesn't like being controlled. Who does? But simply telling your partner, I don't like being controlled, ask Dale, that doesn't build a relationship. That just describes one of 1,000 ways to do a relationship wrong. Well, so what? I could scream wrong at you every time you're playing a piano piece and you hit the wrong note, but that's not going to teach you how to play it right. That would take you, oh my gosh, essentially an infinite number of possibilities of being wrong before you ever played the piece correctly. You continue. I suffer from depression, and it is worse now because I don't feel loved by her. Listen slowly. You're depressed because you've never felt loved. It's not really subtle. So your pain is from a lifetime of not feeling loved. It's not a result of anything that she has or has not done. And to make it worse, then you would have had no idea how to pick a loving spouse. Again, not your fault. You didn't know any better. You need to find an example of unconditional love so badly you're dying for it. Dying in the middle of the desert of thirst and hunger. You say, my question is, how can I cope with my feelings and her needs so my marriage will survive? Right now, it is on life support. My wife is exhausted, has nothing more to give. She wants positive action from me. Thanks for your help. You need to feel loved, not kind of loved, not superficially loved, not 10% loved. You need to feel loved down to your bones, like now. In your words, I'm using your description. I'm not making judgments about what you said. As I say this, I've made lots of judgments about what you said. You said that your marriage is on life support. Well, it's pretty close to the end, huh? This is not a time for reading a book or attending some conference calls. So I'd recommend that you find a coach and get an intervention. Do it. This is your second failed marriage. You've retired from the military, so you ain't 30. Why spend the rest of your life alone, confused, miserable? You need help right now before the wounds in you are unhealable and before the wounds between you are beyond repair. You can do this. You can find it and learn what happiness is. You can learn about how to be in a relationship, frankly, how to be, period. And you can write me if you want to know more, whether you want to do an intervention or not. You need help, and intensive help. As you've been living life, it's scarcely worth living, which is what your depression is telling you. You're depressed because your whole heart, mind, and body and soul are screaming, I can't stand this, which is all really depression is. So let me know. Happy to help to whatever extent you'd like. Here's a member who says, I've been taking calls from a woman and her daughter. The daughter, 19, called today and was telling me about a proposed trip to visit a male friend about 2 hours away. She'd be staying with him and his family for a week. Her mom says he's not a real friend and doesn't think she should go. This isn't really so much about the judgment whether he's a real friend or not. I could just hear them arguing back and forth. Well, Mom, how do you know he's not a real friend? Well, waste of time. It doesn't sound like she's going to be listening to her mother anyway. So if the girl will listen to you, she did call you after all, then you could just describe what the realities of life are, what the truth is, what the consequences of making decisions are. That's mostly what people need to know. They usually don't need to be told what to do or not do. You just tell them, if you are eating with a fork and you stick it in the electric socket, it's going to knock you back in your butt and produce a really unpleasant feeling in you from head to toe. Then you leave it up to them, whether they want to do that or not. Several of my children, when they were young, I described that consequence, and they decided to see if it were true. By the time we got to the younger children, they had already seen this and decided that it was true. So they didn't need to stick the fork in the socket, but the older ones seemed to have a good time doing it. At least I did. So you described to her what's the truth. 19-year-old boys do not look at girls and wonder how they can unconditionally love them. This is a fact. 19-year-old boys are rarely thinking at all. They just don't. They can't. If she needs me to confirm that, I'd be happy to tell her. I know, because I was a 19-year-old boy, and I've known hundreds, probably thousands of them. It doesn't sound like she understands much about relationships from everything that you've said so far. So why would she, being new to relationships, already not feeling really secure even with her own mother, so she really doesn't know who she is. When somebody does, they don't fight with their parents. So if you don't even know what you're doing with life, much less relationships, why would you go visit a guy in his house for a week? Really? That's like somebody saying, well, I don't know how to swim, but what I was thinking about doing was taking a cargo plane and being parachute dropped into the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That's about how smart this is. And you're free to borrow the metaphor. Kind of almost like begging for trouble. At the very least, begging for sex, and then later wondering, oh, how did this happen? Because you were stupid from the very first step. And you can help her become less stupid. You can't stop her, but you can certainly inform her. So describe the consequences and then let her make her choice. You said there are a lot of considerations. A big one being that the boy gets high sometimes and drinks to escape his pain. I wondered about her safety in being there. My instinct was to convince her not to go. I did point out that if he gets high, she'll be dealing with the drugs and not him. Forgive me. I'm laughing because you're being so reasonable and logical with her. She's out of her head. Her hair's on fire. She really needs more kind of like the broadside of an axe to the side of her head, rather than reason and logic, which she won't hear. You're wondering about her safety. There's nothing to wonder about. She will not be safe there. You can tell her that. You can quote me. Strike one. You only get 3 strikes in baseball. And most batters prefer not to get up to 2 strikes because after that, well then, they're out, sometimes out for the game. So strike one, he's 19. At 19 years old, he's massively stupid and doesn't care about her. Strike two, he's a boy. Strike three, he's a 19-year-old boy. This is not going to go well. What did she expect? She was going to go visit a 19-year-old boy in his home. They're going to be alone under the same roof at night. And this hasn't occurred to anybody. It's a disaster. Strike four. Now we know that he's in emotional pain, using her words. And he uses drugs and alcohol to escape his pain. That's 5 strikes, which you don't get in baseball. It's begging for disaster. There's so many ways for this to go badly. He'll be drinking or using, and he'll say, well, let's, just go down to the Sonic for a raspberry lemonade, or in his case, probably for a beer. He'll be driving drunk. It takes half a second to skid off the road and be dead. He'll have sex with her. Whatever. This isn't going to go well. I'm going to go off into the jungle completely unprepared where wild animals have been known to devour people, but maybe it won't this time. Stupid. He's already openly declared by all the things that you've said that he's not capable of being in a relationship. He uses drugs and drinks, and she's going to spend a week with him. Why not just give her a revolver? If you're close enough to do this in person, I would actually recommend it. Give her a revolver which has 6 chambers, put 5 bullets in it, spin it, and ask her to hold it to her head and pull the trigger. Or buy her a car with a high-powered engine but no steering wheel. That's how stupid this is. And I'm not kidding. You could, in fact, replay the archive of my answer to her. I may appear as I laugh to be mocking. That's because I am mocking. It's that dumb. And she won't see it unless somebody tells her straight out. How could she know? You continue. She asked for suggestions. I suggested that she pray about it and keep talking to her parents and with wise people so she could have enough information to make her own choice. I also suggested she explore all her options, a shorter visit. You're being so logical. How she will cut the trip short if she feels the need. So when would that be? Would that be at the moment of conception that she would feel the need to leave? When the car wraps itself around the tree, would that be the moment that she feels a need to leave? I mean, these are all very sensible options. Gathering more information, praying. If she gathers options, people are going to attempt to control her and tell her what to do and not to do. And then she's going to do it just to spite them. She just needs to be informed and told, honey, go. But it's going to be way worse than you can imagine. Tell her, I've been around long enough to know how badly this can go. You haven't. You've never driven a high-powered car with no steering wheel. I have. Tell her that it's infinitely more productive to learn how to simply feel loved, like, say, by her mother, before you run off and look for unconditional love from a 19-year-old boy who's drinking. Oh, jeez. It's like learning to pet. Learning to keep a pet by first feeding in the water a great white shark. Brilliant. But if she won't listen, say, well, go figure it out then, honey. If she asks you for actual suggestions, why not make a day trip? It's only 2 hours away. Why does she have to spend the night? I can tell you why, because he suggested it. Ask her who suggested it. See if that isn't the case. You said, I guess my question is, would there ever be a time when it's appropriate to just try really hard to dissuade a person from making a certain choice? I see big red flags all over the place, really. And I would have made the choice for my kids, which is how I know I'm not qualified to answer her question. Yeah, you can't make the choice for her. Don't tell her don't. Just say, play her the replay of this answer. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. And then later people go, wow, she was such a quiet girl. It's too late then. It's nice that you care about her. This member says, my wife often acts like a victim and bullies me to get what she wants. I always give in, and I give her what she wants. Isn't that a bad thing to do? We've had 3 controlling questions in a row. It wouldn't be loving to keep giving in to that, would it? Would you just want to give in the first time and then avoid being in that situation? Look at the language of your question. Read the last line. Would you just want to give in the first time and then avoid being in that situation? The language is horrifying. Give in a relationship with your wife. Yuck, you're a hostage. That's what hostages do. They give in under pressure. Fear. And then that was followed by, or avoid. Running. Fear. So even in your question, you're saying, so how should I deal with my fear in which horribly unproductive way? Which would be best? Should I kill myself with a gun or a knife? You do neither one. If you give in all the time, it's bad for you. You become a hostage. It's not a relationship. You'll feel afraid all the time. If you give in to her, it's bad for her. It reinforces and rewards her victimhood and will keep her bullying. So you both need to do what I suggested to the man who talked about his marriage that was on life support. You got to find somebody who can teach you how to do this. Not just teach you how to love, but love you and help you trust to the point where you can actually feel it. Until then, it's not about giving in or avoiding or techniques or words or what to do. All that comes after the loving. A woman wrote to me to ask what trust looks like. I suggested that I had answered that question already many times in the past. That's a very common thing as I communicate with people. I'll communicate with them for a year, and then they'll ask me a question that they've asked 30 times before. No kidding. Either looking for a different answer or wanting me to take responsibility for doing all the thinking, all the growing, all the learning. So I said, no, I've already answered this. So tell you what, why don't you answer the question that you just asked? So she did. She said, so when, because I said, so she said, what would trust look like? So she's answering that question. She said, when my husband acts out in pain, I could trust the part of him that loves me by remembering how he has loved me. Yeah, nice. That's trusting. When I make a real love call and get a voicemail, I trust that person loves me by remembering how they have loved me, similar to the first one with their husband. As opposed to your present tendency to feel offended or abandoned. If we trust that people are doing their best, if we trust that they have loved us in the past, we don't feel offended or abandoned. I just talked to somebody 2 days ago who was crying and said, "What are you upset about?" "You have abandoned me," because I hadn't spoken to her in like 2 hours. And when she sent a text, I was out in the backyard playing with my grandkids and was unaware that I even had a text. So what's the point? Whether somebody abandoned her or not? No. The point is she didn't trust the love I'd already given her and trust that there would be more to come. And this person's saying that they understand that. She continues. When someone makes a real love call to me, I trust I can't fix them, and it's not my job, no matter how much pain they're in. I trust it is only my responsibility to love them if I choose, and that will be enough. I trust it is enough to offer love and time that I am willing to give. Ooh, that's a very nice example of trust. Because we talk about trusting other people to love us, but it's also important that we trust that they can do this, that they can eventually feel love, that they can eventually manage their own lives and be happy without our being responsible for every little pain in their lives. This is a very good list of trust. When I don't know what to say, this is her speaking, or I make the decision not to say much of anything to somebody, I trust that listening is one of the most loving things I can do, and it's enough. I trust listening only as long as I am willing. I trust that if I listen only as long as I'm willing, that's a loving act, and I'm being responsible. It was a grammar thing. Yes. When I get into the future and begin to fear or try not to think about the future in fear, I trust that I have all I need in this moment. I practice gratitude, including remembering the faces of those who love me, people in the real love community mostly. Yeah, beautiful. Fear is death. Fear is the opposite of trust. I've been afraid of being alone, but I didn't know this until Cheryl told me this: you never have to do life alone again. That felt so incredibly good that I must have been afraid of being alone. Yes. So I remember and trust that I never have to do life alone. I remember and trust that you love me. She's talking to me. God loves me. Lori and Andy love me. My husband loves me. Jacqueline and Dale love me. Donna loves me. I am never alone, because if all those others are true, then yep, you're never alone. I have more love than I will ever need. I have nothing to fear. My life is a blessing. I'm grateful. Poof. So you did all of that simply because I said, answer your own question, what trust looks like. Pretty good. Now, knowing it in your head and actually living it are different things, but that's a really good start. Knowing all that, you'll have your own feelings to guide you when you're not being trusting, because you won't have the feelings you just described, which were peaceful and powerful and very cool. A woman writes and says, I'm reaching out as I know you will catch me. She's writing to me. I do trust that you will. So it is trust that will help you here, not reasoning or thinking or justice. But I may not catch you, I may simply love you and teach you. So you may not be able to trust that I will catch you, or what most people would understand as rescue you, which is what most people mean when they say catch me. You continue. What happened? My husband, make up a name, Mike, went out with his brothers last night drinking. First time in a long time that he's done this. I didn't mind, as he asked. No issue there. We agreed that he would be back at 3 in the morning, which when I agreed to this, I thought he would be in way before then. So you were screwed right in the beginning. You had an expectation that he would ask you. He didn't really have to do that. He really could have just informed you that he was going to go drinking with his brother. So you were already on an expectation roll. Then you expected that he would be in way before then. You expected he would be in at the very least on time. And yes, he made a promise that he should have kept. But honey, he went out drinking. This is like the girl who's going to go, and visit the 19-year-old boy who uses drugs and drinks, and she wonders how that's going to turn out. When people drink, they get extra stupid, even more than they already are. So if you had any expectations of how he would behave after he was drunk, you were ridiculous. If he does this only once in a while, go out drinking with his brothers, the smart thing to do would have been to just, let him go and have some fun and hope you see him sometime midday the next day. You continue. I couldn't sleep knowing he was out. Oh, so expectations weren't enough. You heaped on that, not trusting him. You blew it right there. That's the only reason you had trouble sleeping. You didn't trust him. If you trusted him, you'd have just gone to bed and woken up at 7 in the morning, looked over and noticed he was either there or not. But you were sitting there watching your clock or your watch. This guy was doomed before he left the house. You said he went into fear. You went into fear on what he was doing, who he was talking to. I tried not to, but when he drinks heavy, which is what puts me into fear. No, that's not what puts you into fear. It's your lack of trust and your expectations that do that. And you keep the past over his head like a sword. So when he drinks is exactly when you need to trust him more. But what you do is when he makes a mistake, poof, you pull the trust away. Trust that he'll recover from his ridiculousness from drinking. Trust the moments of real kindness that I know personally he has shown you lately. You stated yourself that you were doing better. Trust that instead of requiring that he prove that he's trustworthy all the time. So no, he's being out late didn't cause your fear. Your lack of trust did. You continue. So 3:10 in the morning comes and goes. Well, that was it for me. I can just feel the vibrations through the page. I was so angry. That's followed by 3 exclamation marks. You were screwed, dear. Should have just gone to sleep. Trusted him, let it go, been happy for him that he was having fun with his brothers. You were determined to control him right from the beginning. This was going to go badly. You say, this is the text I sent him. I could almost write this text for you. How disrespectful and full of expletive are you? How is this relationship supposed to work when you can't even come home at the agreed time? I would stop to count the number of question marks and exclamation marks. There are more than 15. What possible, this is all caps, excuse can you use? Again, a whole bunch of question marks. Well, blank you, another expletive. And this is going to be received by a guy who's drunk. You continue. This is the text. And this is what you call trying, all caps, at the relationship, is it? Again, oh, this has got to be 20 question marks. What goes around comes around. Yes, dear, actually it does. What you put out came right back in your face. You were just completely, profoundly wrong, honey. You didn't mean to be. You said that you trust me to help you. Well, here it is. It may be not what you envisioned as far as catching you, but you were just dead wrong. Now, was he wrong to ignore the time that he was going to come home that he gave you? Yeah, yes, he was wrong. I get that. But boring. He was just wrong. He didn't spit in your face, curse at you, send you 55 question marks and exclamation marks, and condemn his relationship with you, which is what you're doing here. He just screwed up while he was drunk, which is exactly what you'd expect of somebody who's drinking. You should have gone to bed for the night and been grateful to see him in the morning alive. Instead of love, what you want is justice and safety. And baby, justice and safety are cold bedfellows, to say the very least. So you're screwed when that's what you're looking for. You said, not the best of texts. It's like saying a nuclear bomb was not the best way to roast marshmallows. But I was raging, and I was so mad / angry, I guess those are different, because you were controlling and demanding instead of loving. And you actually believe that he made you angry. And we've talked about that, 50 times. Your anger was a product of your expectations. I'm not excusing his behavior. He was wrong. I'm saying that his mistake was small and just kind of stupid. And so you responded to it with a huge one. You said, I then went and slept beside my daughter all night. He did come home 30 minutes later, 30 minutes after that scorching, flame-throwing text, and was calling me. He obviously didn't know where I was in the house. I ignored the calls. Yeah, serve him right. As I knew that he was going to be drunk. He did come into our daughter's room. I pretended to be asleep, as I didn't want a bust-up at that time of night. Yeah, kind of. You were also, punishing him. And this is where I am. And now he's in bed recovering, and I'm still mad as hell. Sweetie, you just forgot yourself. You forgot about expectations. You forgot about love. You forgot about trusting. You forgot the whole deal. So first that. First feel that what I'm telling you here is catching you. It's loving you. I have nothing to gain here. You just made a mistake. Go find him when he wakes up and say, I am so happy to have you as my husband. I'm going to bet he doesn't hear those words a lot, just from guessing from the text. You say, I was an idiot to text you while I was angry. I was an idiot to be angry at all. That's it. That's all you have to say. You say, in all fairness, and my friend rightly pointed out to me, it never goes well when you get the advice of a friend and then you give it to me. I feel like I'm making all the sacrifices for his mistake. That's what I talked about, honey. Justice is a cold bedfellow. You want fairness instead of love, so you're doomed. And your friend is also wrong, just as wrong as you. So whoever you're talking to is making this worse. You say, it's me that's given up my home, my family, my social life, my friends, and blah, 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 all to be with him and work on us. Darling, yeah, maybe you have given up all that. And marriage is about giving everything you have. Everything. With no expectations and no holding back. And he's worked pretty hard at this too. He's screwed up just like you, but he's worked at it. He works on it every day to some extent, and sometimes it's not obvious, but you've had some great days with him. And he's worked at being more loving. So, no, you have not made all the sacrifices, and you just need to go and tell him you were wrong. You said, I've paid for coaching and I've pushed real love and I feel offended. I really do. He's been the one in the wrong. He's made more mistakes than I have. Yeah, I know. He's not making as many phone calls to you as I am. I told you right from the beginning, honey, that it would be rare for this big, gruff, manly man to contact me. It's just not him. That the key in your marriage was one thing, first of all, you're not being angry. That doesn't make him right. I'm just telling you that's the key thing. When you're not angry, in your own words, you've told me this before, he does pretty well. 0 anger. Definitely, he made a mistake. You turned it into a battle. So, not really complicated. Do you want fairness, justice, expectations, and being right? Or do you want love? Do you want justice or a happy daughter? It's your choice. Now, the cool thing is, I sent her this email, and then I spoke to her on the phone. She really didn't like it at first. I know, surprise. But then she woke up and was grateful for the lesson in listening. So it really turned into a pretty cool experience. We can make all manner of mistakes. What matters most is, are we willing to learn from them? That's really kind of like the thing that matters. Here's somebody who says, I thought you said, that's always followed by how I said something else that contradicted what they thought I said. I thought you said children need love from their parents. I have said that. Yeah, it's kind of like the core message that I possibly teach more than any other. Do adult children have the capacity to give real love to their parents? Yeah, sometimes. Occasionally. When a child has been loved enough, this would almost always be an adult child. Sometimes he or she acquires the ability to unconditionally love a parent, but that's not common and never to be expected by the parent. Some of my children have acquired the ability to, on occasion, demonstrate an actual concern for my welfare without wanting anything back. And it's a pleasure for me to see their growth and maturity, to see their peace. I'm happy for them, but not for myself, not because they love me. So yeah, it is possible for children to learn to be loving, but don't wait on it and don't hold your hand out for it. Here's somebody who says, I spent some time with a guy. When he returned home, oh, sorry, this is me. Sometimes I write notes to myself and I think it's somebody else. I spent some time with a man, and when he returned home, I asked how he was doing. He said, I am staying in the flow. I've gone to a few meetings, talked to a few people. How do I know I'm in the flow? That was actually the first question in my mind as I read it. I feel pretty good. It's easier for me to smile. I feel like smiling more. I laugh. I'm still in pain sometimes, but I don't stay there long. Feeling loved is making a difference in how I feel. That's how you tell if you're progressing. You feel more peaceful. You feel like smiling more. You don't feel angry as much. It doesn't have to disappear all at one time. From a woman in a real love group, Janet. She says, there's a man in our group, Ben, who has been texting me regularly lately. I don't know what to make of this. I don't want him to confuse my unconditional love for him with a romantic love. So I don't know quite what to do about it. Turns out, I know both of them. So I wrote her back, said this. Ben actually does have a little crush on you. It's really kind of obvious. Anybody can see that. But you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to withdraw from him. He's been alone for ages, and he's just barely beginning to feel connected to people. Then at a real love meeting, he held your hand and he talked to you. Oh, it was exhilarating. A very natural reaction. And so a part of him has a desire, at least part, to be more than just friends. You don't have to protect yourself. Just be his friend. Don't worry about it. It's like an adolescent crush. You're cute, you're intelligent, you're well-spoken. He liked it. It's nothing. You said, I know he's an adult and can make these decisions for himself, but I don't want to do or say anything that may confuse him or set him back at all. Oh, quit it. You're not responsible for how he takes it. You just be his friend. It's not your job to protect him or to protect yourself. Don't withdraw. Just love him. If it confuses him, he needs to talk about it. You might even encourage him to talk about it. Or if he's in group, to have a wise man, or have him talk to a wise person. Just let it happen. Lighten up. Relax. Here's a member who says, I'm trying to see how long it is. Too long. See if there's a shorter one. Yeah, this will do. I'm a member of a Real Love group. I've read the books Real Love and Real Love and Dating. Just recently started using the Match.com online dating site. I'm older, been divorced for many years, been looking for a long-term committed relationship, a life partner. My question, what is your feedback on the need for physical attraction when first meeting a potential partner? Oh, it matters some. If it would probably be distracting to you if you're 4'11" and weigh 87 pounds to have her be 6'7" and weigh 450 pounds. That'd probably be distracting. But I ask guys this all the time. When guys say, I've met this woman and I'm just really attracted to her, the first thing I say is, attracted to what? Well, she's really attractive. Physically, you mean? Mm-hmm. That's going to wear off. And if that's your first criterion, that she has to look a certain way, she has to be blonde, 5'7", has to have hips that look like, you may have just eliminated the perfect partner for you, for a pair of hips, really. The physical attraction, that initial physical attraction, at least, that initial sort of blood pumping, brain dead attraction wears off. So why make a big deal about it? The genuine physical attraction that remains, you're going to have that with pretty much anybody who's unconditionally loving. So find a real partner, somebody who can be unconditionally loving first, and after that, the physical part, it works out. No kidding. I've only been doing this for a million years now. It always does. You say, when I first meet a woman for coffee, one of the criteria I have is that I'm physically attracted to her in order to move on to getting to know her better. In the past, before Real Love, the physical attraction level would need to be high, at least a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, after Real Love, I do want to get her to know her first on a deeper level, so if the physical attraction is a 4 or greater, I'm open to asking her out again. Well, we're actually saying much the same thing. So you don't have quite as exacting a requirement for physical attraction as you used to. You're on the right path. Physical attraction does play a part, but the more you understand the role of Real Love, the less it matters. Problem. After going out, you say, with several women, 1 or 2 times, I find the physical attraction fading to more of the friendship area. My sense is that in trying to apply the Real Love dating practices, I may be overlooking my need for physical attraction in the beginning. No, you're not. For me, I've never found the physical attraction for a woman increase as I get to know her better, but it usually decreases. Yes, the emotional and spiritual attraction can increase, but not the physical. You don't realize it, but you're saying what I've been saying. So the physical attraction part does tend to wane. It tends to get smaller. Just proves that a great part of it was imitation love, whatever. And again, if you find somebody who can genuinely love you, the physical part will happen. Now, if you have an unconditionally loving relationship with somebody, you may not experience the wild, crazy, brain-dead, drunken 19-year-old splendor in the grass fireworks that you experienced when you were a kid. So what? Every time I eat a meal, I don't experience the same excitement I did that I did the first time I tasted that food. But you'll have plenty. So you're just learning an entirely different way of living and of finding a partner. And gradually, if you always share your dating experiences with wise men and women, do it in the open, and keep looking for people who can love you and people that you trust, you'll figure out the physical attraction part. You don't have to put numbers on it. 6 out of 10, 4 out of 10. It'll be easier than that. So, as I'm saying to this member, I say to all of you, just do that. find the love, trust it, remember it, and it changes pretty much everything else. See you in a week.